Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So, one of my subscribers told me about this story out of Gwinnett County, Georgia, involving police brutality and police misconduct. And I want to take time to tell you all about this story and then provide my commentary. So, here you had an African American man by the name of Demetrius Hollis. He was stopped by the police for some minor traffic issues. And this stop was captured on video. A citizen apparently used their cell phone to record this event. So he's stopped by the police. The police officer pulls him out of the car. This brother has his hands up like this. He has his hands up. And despite having his hands up, clearly not posing any kind of threat at all to the police officer, that police officer punches this brother in the face. And after he's punched in the face, the police officer puts some handcuffs on him, and he's laying on the ground with his stomach on the ground and his hands behind his back, cuffed. And another police officer runs up to the scene and proceeds to kick this brother in the head. Even though he's already handcuffed with hands behind his back, not posing any kind of threat, not making any kind of motions or anything like that towards the police, this guy runs up to him and kicks him in the head. Now, they say that this brother didn't have a license plate. They claim that they smelled marijuana in the car, but none of that, even assuming that that stuff is true, none of that justifies the treatment of this brother. None of it. And at this point, after this videotape was released, the police department decided to fire these two officers, and rightfully so. I'm glad that they are fired, but now what needs to happen is criminal charges need to be filed against these officers. Right now there's a criminal investigation, but no charges have been filed. And it's important to note that one of these officers, and his name is Michael Bongiovanni, he has like 12 other citizen complaints that were filed against him. 4 administrative misconduct complaints filed against him. This man has been accused of being brutal towards suspect. This man has been accused of calling people the N-word. So this man has a history of police misconduct. And I think that with this videotape, and hopefully when they conduct a thorough investigation, I hope that charges are brought against these officers. And, I think that that's an important first step. Not only do they need to be fired, they need to be prosecuted under the law. Otherwise, police will feel like they can violate the law and act with impunity. So I think that action needs to be taken against these guys, criminal action. I will post links in the description box to several articles that I read for this story so that you could have the information. But I want to point out a couple of things. Right now, from what I understand, this young man is retained an attorney, and they're probably going to file some kind of civil action against the police department. Now, those kinds of actions are good for the family of the victim. They're good for the victim because they can receive monetary compensation. But I think that there's a larger issue that needs to be addressed, and that's police misconduct. That's this whole problem of racial profiling, this problem of excessive force that's often deployed against African Americans. That is the core problem. See, often what happens is they pay off a couple of families that have been victimized, and the discriminatory practices continue. The discriminatory patterns and practices in these police departments continue unabated. You still have incidents of police brutality after that payout. So these civil suits don't address the core issue. Like these civil suits that are just based on personal injury type of claims, they don't address the core issue. I think that you really need to have a Justice Department investigation in that county. But, under Trump, under Jeff Sessions, that is unlikely to happen. But I think that that's what needs to happen to make sure that this is not a pervasive problem. See, it's easy to get rid of these 2 cops, but it still doesn't address the core problem. And this is not just some problem that's isolated to that one particular county. This is a nationwide problem. There is a nationwide problem of police using excessive force against African Americans. There is a nationwide problem of racial profiling against African Americans. And there was a study, and I'm going to keep citing this study. It's a study done by the Washington Post that pointed out how African American men make up 40% of the victims who are shot by police who are unarmed. 40%, even though African Americans only make up 6% of the U.S. population. That means that African Americans are 7 times as likely to die from police gunfire than, than white men. 7 times more likely to die of police gunfire than white men. And when it comes to just use of force overall, there's a disproportionate high rate of use of force when it comes to African Americans. African Americans are 3 times more likely than white Americans to be subjected to the use of force at the hands of the police. So these are systemic problems that have to be addressed. And I'm glad that the police department took action to fire these officers, but that's only the first step. You know, the next step is criminal charges against these officers, because that's the only way that you really can deter this kind of conduct. That's one of the greatest ways to deter that kind of conduct. And also the police department needs to thoroughly investigate them. They need to have an investigation done of that police department to make sure that this is not some pattern and practice within that police department. Because you can get rid of a few bad apples, but if the whole batch is rotten, that doesn't solve the problem. So those are my thoughts about this. Tell me what you think. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Peace.